Hello friends, I hope you're doing well. Gonna do this video a little bit differently. Basically, I had some illustrations I came across on my iPad from a while ago, and I wanted to, instead of like drawing something for you real time, actually watch the time lapses and kind of walk through some of the decisions I made at the time. I absolutely love, like you can see the illustration on the screen. I love this. I love the shape. I love the movement. The character is amazing. So I actually have a couple in this video that I worked through. So I just wanted to show you that process. This came from me going to the zoo one day and kind of looking at different animals and just kind of wanting to try to see what I could do with pushing them a little bit. So no further ado, let's watch the time lapse, and I'm going to pause and kind of talk all the way through it. So let's go. All right. So I actually started with a snow leopard. That was the one I wanted to build out. So as you can see here, I was just building the rough of it. And from back here, you can actually see I had it looking directly at the viewer. And I was trying a little perspective, so kind of 1 foot forward and the rest of it sitting back a bit. But I couldn't find a good comfort point in that. So I changed that dynamic a little bit, so it was kind of turning more of a side-on kind of approach. So you kind of see a bit more of the structure of it, the way the eyes are kind of right at the top of the head, like that real predator kind of sort of movement, like about to get the prey kind of thing. Now, one thing when I did see this snow leopard at the zoo, and I've always loved snow leopards, is they have these massive big padded paws because they're up in the mountains and the snow and everything, and then the really big tail. So the paws and tail are all about balance. It's about keeping them stable, being able to attack prey on really sort of rocky surfaces and that. So what I wanted to do was just like blow them right out because they look so amazing. From a kind of character point of view, I wanted to really highlight that and make that bigger. So I did that. So I made sure the paws kind of looked almost oversized, almost a little bit cartoony, but still kind of worked with the rest of it. That kind of like foot forward, like that stalking approach, you're kind of bringing the character into it a little bit more. Okay, so as I go, yeah, so now I've jumped onto the next layer. So I've got that kind of structure that I'm happy with. Now, what I would recommend as you're going through this process, if you get to a point where the structure, you're not happy with the structure, don't move to the next layer. So if you've got a layer that you're really happy with, then jump on, because as you kind of go, it will change and adapt, but that general structure will stay there. So make sure you're happy to kind of take that next step along. So that's what I've done here. Now I'm kind of working out a really finite line. Actually, there was a tiny little decision you can see here. Where is it? There. Okay. So see, I had to play with making him look angry. And the moment I obviously did that, I realized quite quickly that this wasn't really what I was after. I wanted him to kind of be eyes open, attentive, ready to go, whereas the angry kind of just didn't really match the character. So it was good to try, but you can see that decision change quite quickly. The wider eyes had a nicer feel. One other thing I should mention is obviously I'm working with quite a thin pencil here, and what that means, so some of my other work you see on my channel, it's really focused around kind of thick black lines and that kind of thing. What I was doing here was actually working with quite a thin pencil because I want to get something where the lines aren't the sort of priority in the drawing. They're more to be blended with the color that goes with it. So you see a lot of that kind of effect in like early Disney movies, even the kind of 90s Disney movies like Lion King and that. The lines they have to kind of blend with the color, but they are there at the same time. So it's kind of finding that sort of balance of what you want. Now with this one, I wanted to kind of try that. What that also means is you can have, like here, you can have these little gaps where it's like a little bit separated. And you can be a little bit rougher with it like this, but it still looks refined. So I was playing around with that to see what I could do. As you can see, claws here, that little process, excuse me, that little process there. Once I got the paw down, I sort of broke it up, and then I tried one version of the claws, and then decided to go back to something different. There we go, and landed on this. So you can see I went the really big claws. Now, my thinking in this section here is I really want to make it look like cat's claws. So if you ever kind of pushed on a cat's paw, you see the claws, they kind of slide out and they have this really like kind of curved look to them. So trying to get that in a simple way, but not being too anatomically correct, can be quite tricky. Again with the legs, wanted to make sure it had this kind of like really strong hind legs that could just launch it forward at prey. So kind of getting that where it kind of looks almost like a, I don't know how to put it, but like almost like a spring, like a coil. So it's going to push back and then push forward. Getting that as a visual is really important. Okay, so now I've kind of taken out that back layer. I've got this quite refined. At this point, I'm probably feeling really happy with the flow that I've got. So if you look at it, it's got this really kind of slinky line shape where it kind of flows all through. There's no jagged edges. It's quite smooth. So what I'm thinking of is this kind of cat that's, has this kind of slow movement, but then can spring out and kind of go off in a different direction. The paws I'm really happy with. So there's a nice balance of perspective there. So you'd probably think this one would be sitting in your immediate foreground, this one not far behind it, this one sitting back on the other side, and then this one all the way. So you imagine this cat's kind of like spread right out, like very balanced. The tail up there, keeping it balanced, the ears tucked back to make sure it's sort of focused on what it's doing. Okay, now because the lines are so thin, I've added a little bit of weight into these. So I've added some weight into the ear markings, to the eye, and the whiskers obviously add that extra level of detail to it. So having those bits of weight can really help highlight areas you want to pull out. So I want to make sure you see that the ears are tucked back because that's helping the emotion, and that the eyes are wide with these thicker lines. Okay, now adding in the spots, we've got detail coming in. So now you kind of see the whole piece coming together. So adding that detail, again, darker lines up here to kind of show where the tail's sitting in regards to the head. So it's very balanced. And that detail is just what kind of, you've got the structure, you've got it looking nice. The detail just goes voomp and it kind of lands it really well. So you'll see here, I just added a bit of fur texture. I felt that it was a bit too simple. So adding a bit of texture can kind of help that detail. It's very subtle, but it also gives it so much more life. A bit of a fade out here. So you can see I've got these key markings of the pattern up here. Then as they go down, they're sort of randomized all the way along. And as they go down, they kind of get smaller and petered out. So if I had a hard stop on the pattern there, you'd lose a bit of that reality of what you're actually drawing. Okay, some bristly hairs on the back here kind of gives you that like real cat feel, which I think works quite well. Yeah, breaking up. Trying to keep randomness is quite a difficult thing. So it seems like it should be easy, but if you try and go too random, it doesn't connect. And if you try and go too patterned, it looks too uniform. So you've got to find that really tricky middle ground, because a pattern can look amazing. It can make such a difference to an image, whether it's character based or something else that you're drawing. I feel like pattern can really add that level of detail that's so crucial. So you can see here, trying to find that randomness. Even here, there's like a couple that look sort of quite similar. That gives me a little bit of a bit too not random enough. But as you kind of go through, you can see how they sort of peter out, and that pattern's there, but it's not super strong. Okay, so I'm adding the base layer of color now. So in some of my other videos, I'll use a gray as a base, and then add color on top of that. So you never see the gray. It just kind of operates as like a structure to add color to. You can do it this way as well though. So you can add the base color that you're actually going to use as your base, and then build the other colors on that. As you can see, I'm sort of cutting away the excess, which I've talked about before. It can be a really beneficial thing because you get to see your illustration in a lot more detail, and it actually really helps you kind of see if there's little inconsistencies or things that you've missed along the way. So it takes time. It takes a lot longer than selecting the whole thing. However, especially for detailed illustrations like this, it can be a really useful tool to kind of tidy things up because you're zooming right in and you're making sure you're collecting every little part. Okay, so change my mind on color there. Reason I think would be to call out these yellows. So everything now that's yellow pops really hard. And then what have I done here? Okay, I wasn't happy with that apparently. And I've gone back and done another little breakdown. So I wanted the lines to be a bit thicker, which is totally cool. And I think considering I had that looking so, that balance looking so nice, I can understand why, but that also is just me being fussy. Now I did move this foot forward a little bit. I think probably just to highlight the paws a little bit more, and also show some distance, because the overlay might not have been working for me at the time. You see some of these curves, like, so the taper on either end and then the thickness and the weight in the middle, what that kind of shows is the weightness going down. So this cat being so balanced and heavy is really quite a helpful thing. You can then also see some repetition of that in the tail. Now this is all brush stroke based, so I'm not thickening lines or anything. I'm just putting a little bit of extra pressure as I go. What I do find is the sort of smoother the movement, the better it's going to look. If you try and like go slowly and go weight and off, you're going to get these like kind of almost notches of weight all the way through it. If you do a nice smooth motion, you might have to do it a couple of times to get it right, but you can do that. Yeah, and you'll get a much better result. Alrighty, so yep, just redrawing the whole pattern again. This is part of the process, but as you're going, you kind of notice things that you don't feel good about. Look, I've still got a lot of variance of weight, so you'll see some thinner lines up here and then nice big thick lines there. So it still has that kind of delicate texture to it. Okay, playing around with colors still. Tried doing them light instead of dark. Now, from memory, I think I'm pretty close to where I settled on. So kind of getting that pattern right, trying backgrounds, adding in shadow is quite a nice way to kind of get balance on it. Just being very indecisive and suddenly drawing something else. Oh yeah, I was trying some different animals at the zoo, so I wanted to see how they looked. Trying meerkats. Okay, so I've left the snow leopard now, jumping across to a meerkat. Trying to play with the structure of that, like the snow leopard, and making them really kind of, pushing sort of shape and positioning and character as far as I can. So as you can see with this one, that's you've got this beautiful sloped line coming down here with a little bend in the tail, but everything kind of connects from somewhere. It's blocked out, but you do know what it is, like you still get it. So playing with simplicity a lot with this one. Okay, now here's a snake. So as you can see, really wanted to try those bends, like it's kind of inching forward, but like really contorted and really more of an extravagant version of it. So as I've kind of gone with that, again, building in patterns, I want some really heavy weight in this one. So what you can see is these ones are very different to what the snow leopard was. So the snow leopard, I was trying to go quite delicate and thinner lines, more detail, that kind of thing. With these guys, it's like bold character, like extreme positions. So that's sort of where I'm trying to go. Okay, I think this was a wombat I was working on. So wombats are really hard to draw. I found that out the hard way. Yeah, trying to get like eyes and the way they look and everything, but like super fun. But yeah, I struggled with that one. I still wasn't 100% happy with the end outcome, but look, it sort of did the trick. Okay, so there we go, coloring in, yep, blocking color, trying it with a bit of writing as well. So sometimes that can be a really beneficial thing. So throw a bit of writing in, see how that looks, see how people sort of engage with that, and you can go from there. Yeah, look, and there we go. And that's where we landed. So look, I hope that was helpful. I feel like that snow leopard portion was really good to kind of look at quite a detailed analysis of an animal, and character, and building shape and line and color into it. So thanks for watching. See you next time.